Okay. Tuesday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is Red Sky at Morning Tuesdays on the After Show. That's right. I'm looking west. I'm looking east. If there's a red sky in your morning, there's a storm a brewing.
Yeah.
And as we like to say, there's a red sky somewhere in the world. Hey, Wink, how is your world?
Not bad, not bad. Forget what day it is. Like, what the hell? What is it? What's the
Tuesday.
But it is Tuesday. What do we got here? 39 degrees, so it's not too bad out there, and it's overcast, but that's winter. But yeah, it's not 39. It's not bad. We'll take the day, and as we edge closer to spring, I got a few weeks left, but we're getting there. Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And of course, the donate contribute button is just to the leftish of the chat room link. So if you feel so inclined, it is truly helpful. We're unable to do it completely without you. Yep. So thank you for the generosity. Also, after show pods can be had by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, and the Spreaker version we call that the raw data file.
It is very raw, yeah.
Comes up fairly close to the end of the show or so. Yep. Sometimes it takes them a little bit to get it, but it's there. And then by way of Podbean is the perfected file. But you can also get it by way of iTunes, Stitcher, Tune in, yeah. iHeart. If you feel so inclined to go to iHeart, just letting you know, iHeart is the Domino's pizza of the internet world, if you want to look at it in one way. Well, Wake, here along the banks of the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 43 degrees. It has been raining. We're slated to go to the low 50s. Thunderstorms today. And as I should remind folks, if there is electrical activity in the air, that is truly, in the legal sense, an act of God.
Yes.
Normally, it's just what the service provider does. That's an act of God as far as we're concerned.
Right. And
as they're getting rid of net neutrality, I guess we're going to have an angry God, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Loving God, now we're going to get an angry God. But the service providers, they're still part of, the temporal existence. And truly electrical phenomena in the sky is almost godlike. So if that happens to impact the station, stand by. We'll be back on the air quickly.
Heck yeah.
And we can't blame it on God, the service provider. We get to blame it on God as nature.
Yes.
Which has a lot more legal weight when you look at it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, Wink. No, it's not even been a month. We're just like kind of short about. No, actually, we're about a month now.
Yeah, about a month now, yeah.
And I was speaking with my sister who, she's fairly politically engaged. But, she and her friends are saying, we don't know if we can take 4 years of this. And I'm like, I don't know if I can take another month of this if you want to ask me.
1 month is enough, really. 1 month is way more than enough. Yeah, I don't think we need more than that.
And what I hate is that this is all set up to get us Pence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's waiting
in the wings, yeah.
Lawrence O'Donnell calls him, the typical Republican presidential candidate out of central casting.
Yes.
I mean, he has the right kind of hair.
Got the hair,
He's very even in his temperament. He's able to lie.
Oh, yeah. No question.
And he does.
Yeah.
But he does it in that weird, understated way, which I got to say, it might be a bit more evil. But it certainly explains the Republican penchant for basically ramming everything they can until the House of Cards falls down.
Right.
And Lawrence O'Donnell he had Lawrence Tribe on and others speaking about the 25th Amendment strategy, which is where the vice president would be putting the protocol in order in which to question whether the president can fulfill not his responsibilities, but his duties. And it can be argued that this president has not once fulfilled a duty of the presidency. And what are those duties? Well, to uphold the Constitution, for one.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, these are the issues we will be attending to today. It is funny how almost every little thing has a constitutional crisis attached to it. It really is crazy. Hey, Wink, lawyers for the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice are battling each other over how far to go in Trump's upcoming new and improved, it's really not a Muslim, travel ban. Order. Because it won't be coming by way of legislation. Oh, no, it'll be coming as an executive order. Which reminds me, Trump would lie about golfing with the Russians. Just keep that in mind, okay? He not only lies about playing golf, and he not only lies about having contact with the Russians, he lies about playing golf with the Russians. How can we trust this guy? Speaking of Pence, a week before Pence's recent visit with NATO, which was like yesterday, Bannon told Germany the U.S. would be following his apocalyptic vision instead. It is kind of weird, how our allies are getting competing plans and policies. And they're all like, what the hell is going? Is that what representative democracy means?
Yeah.
That anybody, even those who shouldn't be president, can be?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Apparently.
Ooh. And outed as a CIA agent by the Bush administration because her husband got in the way. Remember that?
Oh, yes,
Valerie Plame.
Yep.
Valerie Plame is worried Trump's recklessness, and that's her quote, and his, quote, low-quality advisors, that's her saying that, will blunder us into a nuclear war. Nuclear. Yeah. War. Yeah, they could very well blunder us into one, Wink. And this guy, I don't know what it is. I guess he sits up, watching 1950s dystopian TV where the mushroom cloud is going all over the place. That one with Bikini Islands with the ships and stuff, and you see the shock wave moving out over the ocean. Sees that on repeat, and he goes, that could be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Tuesday. So we get a little bit of grounding on Tuesday. That's because we visit with Chris Reeves, always affectionately known as Tom Servo 433. And we're going to speak with him about a report on the retirement of the beloved Kansas Democratic State Chair. I stumbled on that one. I'm sorry. A weekend in Wyoming shows it's on us to support our state parties. I'm curious about the impacts of Trump's draconian immigrant sweeps on migrant labor in Kansas and, why don't we say the Midwest as a whole, and what those impacts might be during planting and harvesting seasons. California's already seeing a problem, but that's because it's California, right? I'm wondering what's going to happen in the plains, the areas that Trump supported. What's their economies going to look like? Curious. And how much can and should the Democratic Party coordinate with Indivisible? All that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar and more. There's always more. In fact, we probably have too much more. But we believe in moderation and a lot of it. And we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular tear in the fabric of space-time. Because who loves you, baby? Oh, I forgot to mention that, we do this. There's that guy over there, Wink, and he's an elitist, and he's on the East Coast, and my name is Justice, and I'm on the West Coast, and I'm very much an elitist. Yeah. And we do this 5 days a week. because who loves you, baby? Okay.
There you go.
It's Tuesday, man.
Yeah.
Feels like Monday.
It doesn't feel like Monday.
We did a Monday show.
Yeah, we
but
did. It still feels like Monday.
It was like a holiday, though. Felt like Sunday.
Exactly.
Still felt like Sunday. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, I have to mention this. I don't know whether this is, whether I should be angry about this, disappointed. But now my basketball team is the Golden State Warriors. And of course, your basketball team, you want to defend your team, right? They're your team. And you want to think that your team, has stellar individuals playing for it, not only for their athletic ability, but, other aspects of just being a human being, right? So, I'm sorry, whoever that is, they're going to have to call back.
Yeah.
So it's a little disappointing when maybe and I'm too old to have heroes, sports heroes in particular, but your players to sort of fall a little short on the human side. Now we have a player, and I think he's rather spirited. He plays on the edge. I'm not offended by his vociferousness in play, and his name is Draymond Green. Quite a player. I mean, I don't think we've seen this kind of player since Magic Johnson, Bill Russell. I mean, he has all the qualities of that play, and he's not a terribly large player. I mean, big enough.
Right.
But he's able to guard the largest guys and the smallest guys. I mean, it's quite amazing.
That is pretty good, yeah.
Now, we went to Michigan State, and you would expect him to be, like the jump jock. So initially when I first saw this, and, of course, this was during All-Star break, and we see all the things, they have to sit down with the press. And he was asked a question because another player, I believe, for the Atlanta team has questioned whether the earth is really round. He believes it's flat. And so some people took it as a joke, and upon further investigation, no, the kid's serious, right? And so Draymond Green was asked about this, and his reply was, well, how can you be sure? And so reporters showed him photographs, NASA photographs, and he goes, well, how do you know they're not faked? My initial reaction was like, dumb jock. Then the other part came in. We live in a world where everything now is possibly fake. Right? Capricorn 1, we didn't really go to the moon, right? It was faked. Those NASA photos were really just, in a sound stage somewhere, right?
Right.
So this is where we are. Someone you would expect to have, a little bit of critical thinking skills because he plays for Steve Kerr, whose dad was killed by terrorists in Beirut, who has a completely different attitude about refugees and immigrants that is a bit more egalitarian than, a bit more. Let's just say it's egalitarian, and Trump's idea of it is not. So I now have moved from, Draymond Green's just a dump jock, to sports as a microcosm of what is happening to our society as a whole. And there's a sizable number of people who believe chemtrails are poisoning us, who believe that the world is not round, it's flat. Because how can you really know for sure? And when I guess you could show them mathematically, but then they would say, that's boring. How am I ever going to apply that to my life?
Yeah.
So this is the world we live in now. And it's not fun. Okay, well, it's always great to see two executive parts of the executive branch battle each other over how bad they can be. I always like that. This is by McClatchy's Washington Bureau. And let's see, Franco Ordonez for the McClatchy Washington Bureau. Fight between leaders at the Justice and Homeland Security Departments could delay release of Donald Trump's revised executive order to limit the United States by citizens of 7 majority Muslim countries, according to a person who was briefed on the dispute. The department leaders are debating whether to again revoke the visas of 60,000 to 100,000 people from those countries whose permission to come to the U.S. was reinstated after a federal judge in Seattle suspended Trump's initial executive order. Homeland Security and White House officials want to revoke the visas, while Justice Department lawyers worry about running afoul of a Seattle judge's order. Interesting. So the Gestapo, Homeland Security, and the Fuhrer want to go after all of them. And the Justice Department, which, yes, we know that they are aligned with the, White House, but they are the bridge to the courts. The Justice Department in this situation, on the surface, seems like maybe they are concerned about constitutional issues, whereas the Fuhrer and his, I don't know, what are they? Shock troops. What were the guys in the Gestapo that went out and did their work? I mean, there was an actual term for it.
Yeah, there was. And it slips my mind this morning, but yeah.
But that's really what DHS is in many ways, right?
SS.
They basically, there you go, SS.
Yeah.
They don't, Constitution, the law is what we say it is.
Yep, pretty much.
And why? Because we are under imminent threat. I love this. And people are falling for it. Hey, the Earth might be flat. Well, here's a picture of the Earth from the moon. How do you know we went there? Jesus. The Justice Department does not want to be held in contempt, said the individual who said the briefing came from a justice official involved in the case. Trump has said that he would issue a new executive order this week, tailored to a federal appeals court decision that blocked his January 27th order, which temporarily suspended entry into the United States by citizens of Iran, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Syria, and Yemen as, in this reporter's opinion, a test case on how to do it all the way across the board. And, of course, the White House did not respond to a request for comment on the dispute. Homeland Security and justice officials are haggling over whether the court's ruling would apply to a new executive order or only to the original. The two sides are debating three possible ways to proceed. One would be to revoke non-immigrant visas, those issued for tourism and business, for example. Well, that'll help Trump Tower. What? Oh, just for citizens of those 7 countries, and he doesn't do business in those 7 countries, wink.
Right.
All right. A second would be to not revoke the visas, but stop issuing new ones. And the third option would be to announce plans to revoke the visas and then wait for the court's approval before carrying out the plan. Now, the Justice Department does not want to revoke the already issued visas, but would agree to either the second or third option. That's nice. Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly appeared to hint at the distinction while speaking at the Munich Security Conference in Germany during a panel discussion on combating terrorism. Well, why don't we start with jobs, maybe? We could go with jobs. Nah. That doesn't kill people, wink.
Right.
We got to combat terrorism by killing people. Jesus. As if terrorism is like a thing rather than a strategy.
Right.
Just... And these are generals talking about this.
Yeah. Yep. Sadly.
The new executive order, Kelly said, would allow permanent U.S. residents, green card holders, to enter the U.S., but people with other types of visas would be allowed in only if they were already in the process of traveling to the U.S. when the order was issued. What? Another one of those? If you're in the air, it's okay, we'll let you in. And then you get down there and people, at the gates go, I don't know, it says here, stop all brown people, don't let them come in. You can't come in, you're a brown person. If they're in motion from some distant land to the U.S. when they arrive, they will be allowed in, Kelly said. That being said, we will have a short phase-in period to make sure that they don't get on the plane. What? Well, okay. Trump's initial order created chaos at U.S. airports as immigration and customs agents initially blocked the entry of all citizens from the 7 countries, including many who lived in the U.S. for years, decades. The order was challenged by the states of Washington and Minnesota, who argued that the order interfered with state universities whose students suddenly could not return to classes, and violated the rights of tens of thousands of U.S. residents who would no longer be able to see loved ones. Yep. Oh, little football practice for 7-year-olds yesterday in L.A. was raided by ICE. Took away a 7-year-old's mom, left him there. Because, he's an American citizen. He doesn't, they don't need to take him.
Right.
Nice, huh? This is where we're at. Okay. Ooh, I better hurry up. This is out of Reuters. Let's see if they're probably at the bottom here. Nope. Oh, okay. Additional reporting by Roberta Rampton, Alistair McDonald in Brussels, Jeff Mason in Washington, editing by Mark John. Of course, you know what we say, never trust somebody with 2 first names.
Right.
Well, Mark John knows what the heck he's doing. In the week before U.S. Vice President Mike Pence visited Brussels and pledged America's steadfast and enduring commitment to the European Union, White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon met with a German diplomat and delivered a different message. Bannon, people familiar with the talk said, signaled to Germany's ambassador to Washington that he viewed the EU as a flawed construct and favored conducting relations with Europe on a bilateral basis. Us and everybody else. I like that. 3 people who were briefed on the meeting spoke to Reuters on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the matter. The German government and the ambassador, Peter Wittig, declined to comment, citing the confidentiality of the talks. Really? A White House official who checked with Bannon in response to a Reuters query confirmed the meeting had taken place, but said the account provided by Reuters was inaccurate. They only spoke for about 3 minutes, and it was a quick hello. I think it doesn't take you 3 minutes to say hello. But you could probably take 3 minutes to explain that the EU sucks, and if you want to get on board with us when the going's good, I think that takes markedly less than 3 minutes, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. The sources describe the meeting in which Bannon took the time to spell out his worldview. They said the message was similar to the one he delivered to a Vatican conference back in 2014. Wow. And that was just when he was running Breitbart News. I would suggest that you go and look at those remarks. They're quite stunning, and he reiterates his Leninist position about tearing the whole thing down and grooving on the rubble. Of course, that last part's a little bit more like Jerry Rubin. Abby Hoffman was okay. Jerry Rubin, I don't know. Let's see. The White House said that there was no transcript of the conversation. Yeah. The sources who had been briefed on it described it as a polite and stressed there was no evidence Trump was prepared to go beyond his rhetorical attacks on the EU. He has repeatedly praised Britain's decision to leave and take concrete steps to destabilize the bloc. Yeah, sure. No transcript? The Germans have a transcript, trust me.
Yep.
And you can rest assured that the Russians do too. Okay. This next article is by Travis Geddes out of Raw Story. Valerie Plame Wilson, who was outed as a CIA agent by members of the Bush administration, is worried about a nuclear war now that President Donald Trump, we don't say president, but you get the idea, has access to the world's most fearsome weapons. He is so casual and reckless, impulsive to say the least. Plame told the San Francisco Chronicle, this is a man who gets riled up by a tweet. Is this the guy you want to make decisions with nukes? Yeah, the 53-year-old Plame, whose intelligence specialty was weapons of mass destruction, said she was shaken by Trump's bizarre news conference on Thursday, and she's concerned about, quote, the low-quality people he surrounds himself with, end quote. So this is the president to whom we have entrusted our nuclear codes, she told the newspaper. The incompetence we've seen is, and I know this is a widely overused word right now, it is unprecedented. And it's more than just Trump. The fact that Steve Bannon is on the National Security Council is horrifying, and what's happened with Michael Flynn is fascinating. He is dangerous, Plame added. Plame, a board member of Global Data Security, said her friends in the intelligence community share her concerns about Trump, who deeply offended many of them by boasting about himself before a memorial to slain CIA operatives. Just remember, the Navy guy didn't want to be national security advisor because of that press conference too. And he did make a passing mention of the CIA debacle as well. I mean, the speech in front of the memorial. Okay. Let's see. The only silver lining in all this may be that after 2 decades of people saying, oh, didn't the Cold War end? And aren't nuclear weapons a thing of the past? Maybe they'll go, hey, wait a minute. It's actually a more dangerous world than ever now. And what we have in the White House is the gang that couldn't shoot straight. Maybe this will wake people up, she said. Maybe it will, and yeah. Well, I think actually people are awake. You know, I'll speak a little bit more about this with Chris, but I attended the local Indivisible meetup with my sister because she wants to be more involved, and she actually is on a committee and doing all sorts of things. But it was at the local Boys and Girls Club in Grants Pass, and the organizers had rented the hall and expected about 80 people, and over 400 showed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I live in a very redneck part of Oregon.
Right.
And, you know, one of the few places that we have a Republican representative in Congress, and he may be going down. So it was quite stunning. So I think that people are waking up. You know, like my sister, you know, passingly engaged. I mean, she votes and studies the voters pamphlet and all. But and you know, on other charitable issues that aren't necessarily political, but I would probably put them in the political realm somewhat. You know, she and my brother-in-law are very involved in that. You know, missions to help people and, you know, helping the homeless and starving people, and
Yep.
you know, they're a bit Christian, and so they've been overseas, you know, and stuff. So, but not the kind of activism politically that you and I might embark on, right?
Right.
But now this is just, you know, like she says, Trump is a threat because my brother-in-law is an American citizen, but he's of Mexican descent.
Right.
And he already was, quote, deported back when Reagan made the El Segundo Linea, the southern line, just around Irvine, you know, which is, I don't know what, 60 miles from the border of Tijuana. And he's driving his UPS truck on the 405. He gets pulled over by then what was known as INS. And because he couldn't show his green card, he had his driver's license. They hauled his ass over the border. And it took the better part of a week to figure out where he was and get him back.
Right.
And he's an American citizen. So it's already happened. All right. So we'll speak a little bit about that, too, with Chris. So let's get to our Jim Hightower break, and then we'll come back and go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar. and issues of not just Kansas and Missouri, but the Midwest and that part of the country as a whole with Chris. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Remember way back in time, back in the old days of 2016? Back then, Trump was on the political stump, promising that by gollies he would stop Wall Street bankers from scamming and robbing consumers and workers. Where did that guy go? To Wall Street. Once ensconced in the White House, Trump has openly betrayed us by helping the financial powers get more power to gouge. In fact, he has even put 6 Goldman Sachs executives in America's top economic policy positions. For example, one obscure Goldman Sacker named Steve Mnuchin is now honcho of the Treasury Department, overseeing America's economy. Aside from the fact that he played an ugly role in Wall Street's foreclosure frenzy, having forced some 10,000 homeowners out of their homes, Mnuchin also has an honesty problem. In submitting his statement of personal wealth to the U.S. Senate, he failed to include $100 million in wealth that he had stashed in an offshore tax haven. Not trying to hide anything, just an oversight, he assured senators, claiming he was confused by the Senate's complicated financial reporting forms. Really? If this big-time banker can't keep track of $100 million worth of his own real estate assets, why trust him to handle the ultra-complex wealth of our nation? Is he lying or just incompetent? This is Jim Hightower saying, far from protecting us from Wall Street greed, Trump's Goldman Sachs Alumni Club is pushing so-called reforms to protect Wall Street from us. Their first move is to try killing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the only federal agency whose only priority is to protect common consumers from credit card gouging, bank fraud, predatory payday lenders, and other corporate thievery. Trump's reforms are the biggest fraud of all. To battle them, contact Consumer Federation of America at consumerfed.org.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Okay, we're
Wink.
back. We're back.
Oh, we are back?
Yes, we're back live.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we had a little bit of a technical issue there.
Yes.
And hopefully things are running fine now. So, yes, indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Chris Reeves is in the vast plains of the Midwest. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the clouds whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio and thus by extension the After Show to span the globe, the solar system, out past the Oort cloud, out past frozen interstellar space, out past that bridge of stars between those galaxies, and beyond everything that's beyond that too.
Exactly.
We'll clean that one up.
Exactly.
I know that just saying and beyond isn't enough, but we can't do that here. All right, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary is facilitated by the great cartoonist Eric Lewis, and his question to lead off the diary is, are you running for office? And that's a very interesting question. Would you consider running for office? Well, Wink, you have considered and have done.
Well, just for local Dem stuff, not for actually elected office, other than just that local group. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that my libertine rock and roll lifestyle would preclude me from running for office, but apparently it might be like a benefit.
Yeah, it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Well, it's a benefit if you're a libertine. You know, you got like a really, kind of like kinky lifestyle. If you're a Republican, maybe you can get away with it.
Right.
Maybe. No, I've considered it, but I don't know.
Well, I would do it for the local group, but I would not go beyond that, I don't think, because I got too many, as they say, too many skeletons. I think somebody could dig stuff up and say, hey, look at this stuff on Daily Coast, damn it. They'd be sunk probably. But,
yeah, I'm not worried about I don't have any skeletons. What's out there, just what I've already admitted, generally. Like I say.
So, yeah.
All right, events currently scheduled, and remember, Navajo maintains the list, so if you have an event that you would like to publicize, cosmail her, and it'll get into the diary and be mentioned here on the calendar. So Colorado Community has their Caffeinating Liberally meetup every fourth Saturday of every single month.
Yeah.
And they're meeting up on February 25th at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver at 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano. Get a hold of Left Candid and or Colorado Tim to let them know that you're attending. Mark your calendars because April 22nd suspiciously sounds like Earth Day to me. There will be the March for Science in Los Angeles, and LA Cossacks will be having a contingent of marchers for that event. So Cosmail Susans, that will be happening, of course, Saturday, April 22nd from 9 a.m. to noon. And yes, once again, Cosmail Susans to let her know so that you can all march as a contingent under the Daily Coast banner. And also mark your calendars because June 30th through July 2nd is the Epic Glacier National Park meetup, the third annual. And Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are the organizers of the event. There is a very important diary about very important planning details about how to survive. And go take a gander at that. And I believe that, yes, indeed, that is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar for the 21st of February of 2017. This is another one. This feels like a president holiday today.
Yeah.
But we had, like, one that honors all the presidents yesterday.
There you go.
But I feel like there's one today. I don't know. I just can't get it out of my DNA.
There you go.
Okay, well, Chris, I'm old school. I loved it, not because we got out of school for both days, but I thought it was great to honor both, specifically Lincoln and Washington. And when All Presidents Day was made, I was upset, not because, it was one less holiday, because it really wasn't. Because, they substituted another one. I think it might have even been Martin Luther King Day. But regardless, I thought it was a steady erosion of our civic involvement. We don't honor specific presidents who we put up at Mount Rushmore, for instance, So I know that's a little bit off the topic, what we were going to speak about starting off, but this just, every time All Presidents Day comes around, I'm just reminded of man, it's just a way of distancing us from our own culture and history. How dare they? I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much into it. I'm sorry. Okay. Well,
No, I mean, it's civic. The problem is we have a lot of people. One thing I will say about Trump, and there's that meme going around, and it's true, is that the Trump presidency has woken a lot of people up as far as, they just never thought so many of these things were even possible. They took for granted that they weren't possible. And the Trump presidency has somewhat awoken people to the fact that, hey, these things absolutely are possible if you have the wrong people.
Well, I want to go through that because I want to speak about Indivisible specifically. But let's start off now. I wanted to start off with this story about I refer to him as the beloved Kansas Democratic State Chair. But and there's going to be now. Will there be a dire impact because of his retirement? Because he seemed to be a fairly effective leader. And I thought we'd start off with that.
We, as a state, state party, went from a point where there was a real struggle to pay the month-to-month bills to a state party that is now financially sound, has staff, just had the largest pickup of wins that we've had in 30 years. I mean, to underscore how big of a role Lee Kinch had, the difference between the Kansas Democratic Party today and one that I criticized in 2014 is night and day. It's not even the same animal. That's That's how significant this really was. Now, this will make a big impact. It'll make a huge impact. But, it's hard to ask somebody Lee's age to continue to run and serve in a job that's pretty demanding.
Right.
And the thing that I really loved about his letter to our state committee was, hey, we've got to get younger. We've got to work to bring more young people in. And I'm hoping his message that went out to everyone inspires a lot more young people to say, look, I can do this. I'm willing to do this. And a lot of chairs, when they leave, especially on as fantastic a terms as Lee, have a tendency to, throw up a victory lap. Let me tell you all about my accomplishments. And Lee didn't do any of that. There was no talking about his accomplishments in his email. Instead, it was all about, let's look to the future. How can we get better? And the Kansas Democratic Party does have a ways to go. We do have to get better. And, saying, hey, we've accomplished a lot, which is true, doesn't mean there's not still a long way to go, because there is a long way to go. And I couldn't have asked for more from somebody who is a chair in a difficult state for Democrats than the message that he put out there. How does it impact us? Well, we're going to find out. It means that the chair's race, which will happen this weekend, and that's the chair's race for our state party as well as the national party. So I will not be in Kansas when they decide their state chair race. Will be wide open, and nobody's really, I think, quite sure how that shakes out just yet. And I hope that we build a leadership team that can follow up on so many of the things that he did and keep us on the right path.
Now, will this affect the literal structure of the party? Many times when state Democratic chair has the capabilities and the accomplishments as this fellow has had, that oftentimes not one person can fulfill, like as your diary said it had, there's big shoes to fill. Will what he was able to do be split up among others? Will a different kind of structure of that leadership team take place?
Well, the one great thing that Lee leaves behind is his handling of our executive director, Kerry Gooch. And Kerry Gooch, as an executive director, is absolutely everything you could ask for our state, and he has taken on a lot of responsibility at a young age, and he has handled it with, a lot of grace, intelligence. I'm fortunate to deal with several EDs around the country, and Kerry has always impressed me for his ability to keep those relationships. So I think whoever walks into this, as long as they can hold on to the same paid staff, which is big, that's going to be a big key. I think that's going to be the one thing a lot of people are going to watch for. If they can hold on to that staff, then it starts them off already on the right foot. I think there will be some division of tasks, but we'll see how that goes.
Now, when of course and this is all relative because Kansas is being run by Brownback, but the effectiveness that Lee brought to the fore, in many respects, when I refer to him as beloved, I think I kind of hit the nail on the proverbial head there, because he is so well respected. So going out on a high note is different than going out a low note. So retaining staff, will there be as many other retirements and people stepping down, or will those be retained because he's leaving on a relative high note?
Well, I think there will be at least one other retirement, but that's one we've known about for a while, so that one's not surprising. That's one we had a temporary treasurer who came in, our former chair, Joan Wagnon, who served as our treasurer for about 5 or 6 months, and that was always intended to be a temporary. She did not want to come back full. It's hard. Again, you're pressing people who've already put in a huge amount of service, and you're asking them to come back. But in a pinch, she filled in and she took the task that a lot of people didn't want, and kudos to her for doing it well. but that's one that was kind of expected. So I think that there will be, no matter what happens, there's going to be a lot of change within our executive committee this time, and that's going to be, really interesting. And I have fingers crossed that, everything's going to work out.
Well, let's come back and revisit that towards the end when we speak about indivisible, because I think there's a intersection there. Let's move now to Wyoming. Now, you're a traveling fellow. I saw Christine Pelosi's name there. So this is the DNC going to local areas. Is this part of the candidate's campaign, not just the chair, but all the others? Is that why you guys were there?
Well, this was not an official stop for the DNC or anything like that. But one of the cases that I made, and several others have as well, is that we have to be more aggressive in our outreach. And so Anna Caprill, who is the chair of the Wyoming Democratic Party, sent out a message, and she said it would really help us both raise money and interest if we had people show up and talk to our state committee about the national races. And since I've made that case, as have others, we ended up with a room full of candidates out in Wyoming, in Laramie, Wyoming. So myself, Adam Parcamino, Christine Pelosi, Rick Palacio, surrogates from the Ellison and Perez campaign were all there and present, and we all got to talk to their state committee people. And I got to tell you, I think those kind of meetings done that way are really beneficial, because the people that you're talking to, they don't have votes in the room. The national committee, they will not be voting for us or against us or any of those kind of things. But I think that they deserve to know what's going on and to hear from leadership from other states, because that's a big start to, bringing back some of the, you have to get back a feeling where people are like, hey, I trust that the DNC is trying to do the right thing on behalf of all the candidates.
That's kind of the old style politics of the, the 50s, 60s.
And so because of things like leaks and some bad blood over Bernie and several other things, you have some people who don't want to trust the system. And so the only way you get around that is by actually going there and doing it.
Now,
I was glad to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Well,
I think it's great, these local stops.
I was just going to
absolutely
ask something that's sort of related, but you brought something up about distrust. And it occurred to me that maybe I might have become jaded, because when I read these charges, I got to tell you, I've never really been a big fan of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, but I read these charges about Wasserman Schultz and this infighting and this politicking. I wasn't offended by it. I thought the first thing that came to my mind was, well, same old, what a surprise. But it seemed to have resonated with, I may be impolite in putting it this way, but with a bunch of newbies who have never been part of the process. But then it occurred to me, well, maybe they're right and I'm wrong. I'm just jaded. Maybe it shouldn't be this way. So I really don't accept the infighting as being such a detrimental part of what the establishment is. I mean, it's the give and take of any political party. The rancor that exists behind closed doors usually gets resolved before people make a public statement. I don't understand why that's construed as being distrustful. But that's a macro thing. I'm sorry.
Well, no, look, there's a lot of kind of crazy bad blood, and there's some level of, I don't want to call it conspiracy, but people want to see bad things when there not necessarily is bad things. I'm a Bernie person, but I have openly said from the very beginning, I am one of those who's not in favor of eliminating superdelegates. I think they should be tied to the outcome of their state, which effectively just makes them neutral. I kind of look at that as the solution. You get the exact same results. It doesn't matter if they're tied to the outcome of their states, then it's, problem solved. And the reason why I think that is because right now, one of the things that happens for tiny states is superdelegates go to their chair, vice chair. Those people who work the job year round, and if they have to run for a delegate slot, then all they do is bump somebody from the grassroots out, because nobody's going to vote against their state party chair to go to the convention. And so it's one of those kind of things. So I'm like, well, just tie them to the outcome and we get the accomplishment. But when I bring this up to some people, you'll get some people who are like, oh, that's how we rig the system, et cetera, et cetera. And, they all have to go. And I think the bad part of this is that there are a lot of us who want to dialogue and kind of come to some sort of solution that everybody's okay with. And I think then you get some who are, there's not ever going to be a solution that they're okay with. There's kind of a joke about this there's two movements that are going on at the same time. One is Dem Enter, which is, to get more progressives to take part in the Democratic Party at the precinct and local level, which I think is important, as well as the national level. And then the other is Dem Exit, which is to encourage people to quit the party altogether and go become green, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And as long as that is going on, there's always going to be some conflict over, that distrust. So the only way that you get around that, in my mind, is to just go to places, talk to people, explain your position. If they disagree with you, they disagree with you,
Yep.
but they've at least heard it straight from you. And there is no, they're free to ask you whatever. So there is no suspiciousness of, oh, well, I think there's some ulterior motives,
Right.
What people don't get is nobody gets paid. Well, maybe in some states, but nowhere near here does anybody get paid to be on the national committee. It's a volunteer gig.
Right.
And it's one that unfortunately costs money. I can tell you as somebody who travels. So most of us are just trying to look out for the right thing, to do to help protect, to win. I mean, we just want to win. So
now, was it, would you say this meeting, we are big advocates of getting to the Governor Dean 50-state strategy. But I think we need to do more than that. This almost seems like, now, of course, it's addressing state Democratic Party issues, but I think it's like every zip code is what we should be going after. And I see Perez's name down there. And in fact, I even think I heard him make that comment that it's every zip code we need to be going for.
That's one of the comments that his campaign made. One of the things that I think has been really good about all of the races for DNC is that we're changing the discussion points. I hear from a lot of people when they watch the chairs debate and they say, boy, there's a whole lot of agreement to agree. The chairs candidates themselves are agreeing with each other a lot. And also, that's a good thing, because it means that they all recognize similar problems. They've all come to the recognition that, hey, these are the problems that we face, and the solutions are pretty basic. There is no, we're not inventing fire or reinventing the wheel. There's only so many ways to do things. And it's not surprising that all of them have reached very much the same conclusion. The question is going to be, how well do we implement those conclusions? And I think that's going to make for a pretty good debate in Atlanta.
We only have a few minutes left here, but I want to get to these last two subjects, and because I want to speak about, I do want to address how much the Democratic Party and Indivisible should be coordinating. But first, if you can give me a thumbnail sketch about migrant labor in Kansas and the greater Midwest, will these draconian sweeps, we keep hearing about restaurants and whatnot having problems, but out in rural America, let's say Trump land, is the economy going to be impacted? Is there much of a migrant labor force that is being utilized, and whether they're documented or not? I know a lot of documented people who don't want to show their face around much.
So last week we had the protest a day without immigrants, right?
Right.
And in Dodge City and Garden City and in several places in western Kansas, cell barns, which are where you go buy animals and crop, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, it's a function of farms, as well as local slaughterhouses, a few other items. Cowboys all walked off the job, and it shut everything down. I mean, everything was literally shut down for a day. And I think that was a good way to send the message of, hey, this is not as, what's going on is clearly not appropriate. And, we have to reevaluate these solutions. Trump supposedly today or tomorrow is going to come out with more measures against immigrants. And, we'll see how that goes over, because it'll happen on the same day that, within the same week that the Pope himself issued out a statement about immigrants. So,
well, I guess the solution, Bannon, if he hasn't come up with it already, might just suggest to Bush that it doesn't matter getting rid of all this migrant labor, because we'll just have a cultural revolution and make the professors pick the crops. I don't know. Maybe not. But I don't know. Whoever gets his ear last, you never know what might be suggested. So let's then move on to indivisible in the Democratic Party, because I don't know, I'm sort of a romantic. I see that this movement is symbiotic with our democratic principles. My sister and I attended the local indivisible meetup here and I live in one of the only rural parts, or red parts of Oregon. The organizers had rented the Boys and Girls Club Hall, expecting 80 people, and over 400 showed up. My sister, who's just passingly, her and her husband are passingly, since I deal with politics every day doing this show, I guess I have specific knowledge, and my sister has a passing idea about politics. Religiously votes and whatnot. But she was all enthused, and my brother-in-law, who's of Mexican descent, born here, is all enthused. They joined committees and whatnot. But how much should the Democratic Party can and should coordinate with Indivisible? And I didn't get an opportunity to ask that question, because I'm still making inroads with my own local Democratic Party here, because I'm a new arrival and I'm still getting the lay of the land. Does it hurt or hinder?
No, so I've been asked this a couple times, and here's where we're at. So in some areas, indivisible groups have already filed their state PAC lobbying forms. Okay. The moment that they do that, then it's hands off. We can't coordinate with them, period. Because they're a PAC, there's rules and laws against coordination. Nobody needs that problem. In other areas, they're just independent groups, just meetings of groups, and that's great. If meetings of groups and somebody from local party wants to go talk to them, I think that that's ideal. But in a lot of ways, there's different energy in those groups. And sometimes those groups are better off, we're better off working in tandem rather than symbiotically.
Right.
So, there's kind of this idea of, hey, let's suck these people in and, whatever, and they're on to make great Democrats. Well, there's a lot of social reasons why people may join a group like Indivisible and not join party, and there may be reasons why they join the party and not Indivisible, and then there's some people who will do both, and it's one where I don't really care which way they are, as long as in the end they're voting our direction. And if in either format we can raise attention to issues, then we've made significant gains in trying to elect the right people. So
I guess, to sum up just quickly, I'm also looking not so much, getting registered voters, which we need, but once someone has declared candidacy, I heard a number that women who have joined indivisible groups who are now running for office. Now, I haven't been able to corroborate this. This was on MSNBC last night, but like 18,000 women are running for various levels of office, county commissioner or zoning board, not just state reps or U.S. reps. Right. That's where the party can become a force. But how embracing will the party be to these new candidates running? I don't know. Maybe that's a bigger question for next week.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm hoping we're very embracing that. That's a longer question, because I think some of that's going to filter out as we go. But I think it's good to see so many people interested and active.
Okay. DNC chair is voted on when?
Saturday morning.
Okay, coming up. So we'll find out the results of that next week when we visit with you. All right.
That sounds good.
Okay, we'll see you then, Chris.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Right.
We better bug out of here. We always say it's for an hour-ish, because we got a little bit of buffer before Hartman. We'll be playing Leonard Cohen's 1,000 Kisses Deep in the interim. Of course, Hartman once again comes up about 6 minutes after the hour, followed by Democracy Now!, followed by Randy Rhodes. Hey, I would suggest you just continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink. We'll be back here bright and bushy tomorrow, and I'll just see you on the other side.
All right. We're up.